Will Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time come to other consoles and platforms? Let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new Crash Bandicoot 4 video. I took a few days off after the mobile game dropped because, honestly, I was pretty mentally burnt out and needed to recharge my batteries. Luckily, I'm starting to feel better and ready to get back into making content. So Crash Bandicoot 4 brought many unexpected shocks with its reveal. The fact that Toys for Bob is leading the development, the release in October, PlayStation thus far not having any exclusivity for it, the art style change, and many other shocks. But one that people didn't really predict, including myself, was the consoles that the game would launch on. People expected a wide variety of things, exclusive to PlayStation, multi-console, current gen, next gen, cross-gen, Extra Gen. Yeah, that's a joke. That makes sense. However, we found out on launch day that the game would be launching for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, this was a shock that the game would be coming to current gen consoles, especially so close to the launch of the next generation. Then, people were also complaining that the game would not be coming to Nintendo Switch and, thus far, PC. But an Activision rep had told PCGamesN.com the following quote. Let's read it, discuss it, and speculate on some of the possibilities for the future. Quote, the follow-up to the classic Crash Trilogy is scheduled to launch on October 2nd, but only on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. There's no concrete word yet on a PC release, but Activision says it's evaluating additional platforms for the game. We are still evaluating additional platforms for a future date, an Activision representative tells us. Stay tuned for more information. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy originally launched exclusively on PlayStation 4 in 2017 and came to other consoles and PC a year later. Spyro Reignited Trilogy, developed by Toys for Bob, the same studio behind Crash 4, similarly launched for consoles in 2018 and came to PC 1 year later. So they are right, with the exception of CTR so far not coming to PC and Insane being a 1-year exclusive to PlayStation. Crash and Spyro would have their launch on regular consoles and then 1 year later would come to PC and Switch. But the biggest key difference here is that we didn't get a statement like this from Activision before any of the titles came, that they are, quote, still evaluating additional platforms for a future date. That's never been said before, at least not this early. Now, the previous pattern with these ports was that they would release the game, then 9 months later, the additional ports would be announced. Then 3 months later, about 1 year from the initial release, the ports would be re-released. But this pandemic and new lifestyle in the gaming industry has literally thrown every pattern we have ever known out the window and in the trash, and we have no idea whether or not it'll ever be followed again. But what we can glean from that statement is that Activision is currently looking to see if Crash Bandicoot 4 will be coming to other platforms in the future. But which ones? The first thing that we need to get through is that Crash Bandicoot 4 has been confirmed to be on the Unreal Engine 4. That engine is completely compatible with the Nintendo Switch, so it's definitely possible we will see a Nintendo Switch version in the future. We might also get a version for PC. Now, unfortunately, I have less faith in that version because it seems that we are not getting a PC version of CTR anytime soon, which still keeps me up at night. And in comparison to the Switch version, which has had a port for every single Crash and Spyro game since the Insane comeback, it is more likely that we would get a Switch port than a PC port. However, it's still possible for a version for both PC and Switch to come out. Now, will there be a PS5 and Xbox Series X version? Well, this is where things get a bit more complicated. First things first, these games will be playable on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X because both consoles have been confirmed to be backwards compatible to the previous generation, so that's 100% covered. What I'm confused about, which is something that I have been saying for months now, is when it comes to playing a previous gen game on new hardware that enables a boost mode with the new components versus porting the game to the entirely new console. It's the same game, but utilizing new hardware. So if the new console plays a game from a previous generation better because it just has better components, why would I need to buy the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X version, which kind of does the same thing? Also, I do have to ask, and would love to ask Activision, what is this footage captured on? Is it a PS4 Pro, an Xbox One X, a PlayStation 5, a Series X, a PC development build? There's a lot of questions here. The reason why this is important and a question that we need to have answered is because the gameplay is running natively 1080p at 60 frames per second. Compare this to the insane Trilogy, which could only go to 30 frames on consoles. 60 frames has been a lot harder to achieve this generation, and I'm having a hard time figuring out how Crash 4 is hitting 60 frames, but Insane Trilogy could not with the same hardware. It's possible we are seeing gameplay on next-gen hardware for a current-gen game. Or Toys for Bob are just wizards and somehow got the game to run at 60 frames on a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Only time will tell. Either way, the game will be playable on day one on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X. And Activision is currently looking into bringing it to other platforms, and this is the earliest that they have ever mentioned this, which I think is very important. So, Nintendo Switch and PC fans, please don't lose hope. It might not even come out in a year, it might even be sooner. We'll have to see. A huge thank you to all those who support the channel through Patreon and being a sponsor on the channel. If you'd like to help it out, check out the links in the description below, where you can buy some CGE merch or become a Patreon. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming and nostalgic content. Thank you so much everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video.